Hi Nisha, how are you?
Welcome to Shine Your Light, where we humanize the conversation and speak on topics that can expand our minds while sharing our own truth.
Hi Nisha, how are you doing? Welcome to Shine Your Light. So
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you so much for having me over.
I'm really excited today because every time I start my show, I always am really excited, and people go, "You're always excited." I always am because I love the show, right? But I want to put this in context for everyone. The first time Nisha and I met, Nisha Sanjeev is an author. She's written books, but she's also ghostwritten books. And Nisha said something really interesting to me, and I said, "I need to get you on Shine Your Light." And the reason why she was here or she is here today is because she told me, Raj, every single person has a story in them. They just don't know they want to tell, the story, right? And I said, Nisha, that's really true. And then we followed it up with this amazing discussion, if you remember, right? So the situation was this: what if you had to write a book about your life? What would it look like? You remember that conversation?
Yes, yes, yes,
So
absolutely.
let's talk about that, Nisha. Do you feel that everybody truly has a story to tell?
Yes. Everybody, no matter what their age, no matter what their educational qualification, no matter which country they come from, no matter what standard of living, nothing matters. You have 8-year-olds publishing books.
Wow,
The recent
that's true.
Sharjah book fair, there were two children from Indian high school, 8-year-olds, grade 4 students, writing about lockdown diaries. So that's
Amazing.
it. Yes, my friend's daughter, sorry, she's just 13 years old. She wrote about her math teachers and how she got rid of them during
Oh
lockdown.
God.
So that's how you find stories. You know?
It's interesting because we think about, when I used to think about a book, or I love reading, so I've always been avid reader, and I always think of it. I picture an author being someone. You don't think of yourself as an author, right? You think of an author as someone sitting out there who's just this wizard with English or whatever language he writes in,
No,
and
no.
just we have this thing in our head when we think of someone who writes a book, you know. So suddenly when
Technology
you
has made it so easy.
yes,
Technology has made it so easy that anybody who wants to be a writer can become an author. And
so
each
well
and
said.
every one of us is a writer, period. Because if we have a smartphone and if we are on social media and if we comment and post something on social media, we are writers.
You said it.
It's just taking that to the next level because we are giving our opinion out there on social media. So,
True.
what is writing? Book writing is nothing but giving your opinion on your subject matter expertise. So, it's
And
just going to the next level. Yeah.
I love what you said. It got me thinking, right? So I'm thinking, you're absolutely right. It's your subject matter
Yeah.
expertise. And then if you take the bigger question, because you and I, we
Yeah.
both have coaches and we always think of the big picture, right? So you
Absolutely.
asked this question, and I want to start this conversation today there because you said, if you had to write a book about your life, what would be the takeaway, right? And I said, wow, because then you are the expert in that subject matter. It's your life, right? So Nisha, how does it? I mean, tell me about it. I mean, that's a great question. What would we write? Let's talk about you. I mean, you got into this. How did you write your first book?
Oh, my first book taught me a lot, many things. And this gets me to this question: how can we write and what do we write? And this is where I so resonate with you when you say hold your space with love. That is what I didn't do when I wrote my first book. And
Right.
I will tell you what I learned. Words are energy, Rajiv. Words are energy,
Words are
pure
energy.
energy. Yeah. So, what space the author is writing from, it is that energetic frequency that the reader feels. Period.
Mm,
So when I wrote my first book, that was way back in 2010, 2012, and I published in 2012,
right.
people who read those books would come and tell me, you know what, that bosses chapter, I so resonate, man. I have such a sucker of a boss. Then there were people coming in saying, you know, what you wrote about your extended family, true. I just don't feel like going and taking my Christmas holidays. And then there were people who would come back and tell me, you know, I felt so bad. I have similar cases, and my mother is going through the same thing. So these are the things what people caught. However, there was a big message in that book, which none of them connected with in the first 4 years after it was published.
Wow. Okay.
Until 2018. The message of that book was everybody has a higher calling, and you need to go through your different purposes, identify your purpose, discover your purpose. That is why. But nobody got that message. It was only after I started my internal journey, after I started healing myself and cleansing myself of all the dirt and the mud that I accumulated over the years,
Right.
then magic, Rajiv, magic, you won't believe this. In 2019, Sharjah Book Authority took 100 copies of my first book after my second book was published.
Wow.
Now, for a
Bless you.
local author, that is huge.
Of
Now,
course.
that is what you can always cleanse your words and words after you've written it, but that takes a lot of what you say work.
So
Instead,
let me summarize what I heard so far, because you've said
yeah,
again many things that are so vital. What you said is, when you what I heard you say is that
yeah,
even when you write a book, your intention may be something, right? Your intention was the purpose, and that, but what people took from that book, because the energy that you put into it at that point in time, maybe you didn't have clarity, so
no.
people didn't get that message clearly, and they got other things from your book, is
Yes,
what
I
you're
was a
saying.
frustrated, yes, I was a frustrated journalist, helpless and hopeless, because I was blaming anybody and everybody for my mom. My mom was diagnosed with chronic depression at that time. So I blamed my extended family for that. I was a frustrated journalist and I blamed my company and my bosses for that.
Right.
And it is that frustration I put into the book. And that is why people saw only those chapters and they
Right.
didn't see the conclusion in that.
Wow.
One. Two, when you said about intention, I just want to say something about intention. My intention with that book was just to hold it, and that came true too. Because the first time author thing, oh, I just want to hold my book, I want to smell my book.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
it. That
Which
was
is
all. I
big.
never yeah, that was it. And of course, to prove a point to my colleagues and my thing that I can do better than that was
Sure.
my first space that I was writing from. And I did that for the first 4 years. I had to literally go and give it to people to say, please read this is my work. And then they would come and tell me this is what they resonate with. It all changed after 4 years.
Wow.
Today, also,
So
that book sells by
so
itself.
what I'm hearing, Anisha, what I'm hearing here is the point is that A is having the courage to write,
Yes,
which is yeah. And
yes,
we'll, of course, we'll talk about, I know when we move forward, we'll talk about the things we need to do. But just your story, what is really fascinating to me is you had the courage to write. You didn't know about the energy and how it's going to translate in the book.
no,
That's something you
no.
learned after 4 years when you go back and you
After,
look at it, right?
yes,
But
yes, yes,
during the process, you got the book there, you got to hold it. People got
yeah,
different messages. People resonated with some of the things you were frustrated with. So as an author, as your first time author, you stumbled into it, but at the same time, what I'm hearing is it still worked, and it still got you to look back and go, I can do
yeah.
it
It's
better.
this, yeah, true. And this is also, this leads me to say something like, why people who are not completing the book. There are many
Mm.
people who start the book and don't complete. This just leads our conversation just leads to the next one. Don't seek perfection.
Ah,
You know
okay.
why? Because this is again a thing I learned from my first book. Almost close to 8 billion people on this planet.
Right.
Everybody, not we are not in a linear way, right? We linear consciousness path. We are at various levels of consciousness.
Okay.
So at that time, my level of consciousness was say 1 or 2. There were people who resonated with that. It's not a perfect
Sure.
book at that time. After that, I healed myself, I learned, I perfected, I wrote my second one. I may have gone to level 3 or 4 of consciousness, and there are people out there in that 8 billion who will resonate with that. So don't wait for perfection when you're writing your story.
Ah, interesting.
Just
But
just come from an honest space.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing that I ask you, because when you think about it, right? So which one of us? I mean, because I know I'm like that too, right? When you're writing something, you read it 100 times, you want it to be perfect, right? I mean, you in
Exactly.
your head. This is
Yeah.
probably one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't be an author, because I'm so
Yeah.
nervous. I'd be scared.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
good enough. It's not good enough. But what you're saying is It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Allow it to come through you.
Yeah, the intention can be let it reach people who deserve to read this or deserve to hear that.
Nice.
You graduate, right? So
Sure.
even in the book world, you graduate. Readers also graduate. Periodically,
Absolutely.
you outgrow the books.
I
So
love it. So, Nisha, what's the first step? So, say tomorrow someone says, "Okay, I want to write a book." How do they start? What's the first step?
it depends on what kind of book you want to write. Fiction, non-fiction, literary fiction. Literary fictions are something you can write from 3 months to 30 years.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
that's a process, right?
Right.
Non-fiction book, which most of the people want to do now because for various reasons, instant gratification. We are living in an instant gratification world. So non-fiction can come like this. That has a proper template. You just follow the template and you get it done.
Okay.
You can write and I would say if for a first-time writer, even before you attempt a non-fiction book, mostly non-fiction book are for professionals
Okay.
just because these days books are for professionals. Books are the business cards.
Okay.
Business cards, you give them a business card, you throw it, but you give them a book, even if they don't read, they'll keep it somewhere. Yeah.
So you
So
have a book.
for
Here's the book.
yeah,
Right.
it's a book, so you just keep it elsewhere. So what I would say was, even for professionals who are looking to write non-fiction on their subject matter, first, if you're writing for the first time, write a memoir.
Write a memoir.
Yeah, write a memoir. Don't go in for your biography. Write a memoir because that will be 2 or 3 instances or incidents or one or two phases of your life.
Right.
That will give you the confidence to open up, and it will give you the discipline, the determination, the dedication, the discipline. You will get into that habit. The main thing is it'll give you the confidence.
So,
It'll give
so
you the confidence to be vulnerable.
is a memoir different from a book? It's a smaller. Is that what a
It
memoir
can,
is?
it can, yeah, it can. No, it's a smaller, shorter version of a biography.
Shorter version of a biography. Okay.
Autobiography is what you write yourself. Biography is what others write about your life.
Okay.
A memoir can be written by others or by yourself, but it will be a shorter version of. It'll not be like, now if I've lived for 45 years here, I can write a memoir on my 20th year
Right.
or of my
Got you.
college life.
Right.
Yes, that, yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, when we think about, a journey for ourselves, you know, even if as an author, if we thought about it as everyone has a story to tell, the process that you were telling me about writing to me was a discovery of yourself. So it's almost like when you're writing something this deep, you have to do research and all. You start to ask yourself these questions, and
Yeah.
then you start to decipher some of these experiences and lessons in your life, right? So that's why I found it so beautiful that everyone can be an author. Everyone does have a story to tell. But
Yes.
what does that make you do? It makes you go within and start to ask yourself questions, and then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
journey of, like you said, the inner
Yeah.
work begins, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
externally you're
Yes.
writing a book, but internally
Yes.
you're working on yourself, and that is
Exactly.
magic, right?
That is magic. That ought to happen. Because again, if you look at it, that's what happens now in the self-publishing world. 10 to 15 years back, it was only traditional publishing. So it
Okay.
was different. You had to go through, you had that time period. Now you can write a book and publish it and become an author in less than 2 months.
Wow. Wow.
So the self-publishing industry has become so rampant. It's like, they produce books as of manufacturing shoes on a factory line. That's that's how it is. Yeah, the latest thing I was just checking, it was like 800,000 books, close to 800,000 books are published every year.
Wow. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So what you want to do is, how many of those books, you need to think is how many of those books are being read, how many of those books message is being imbibed by the readers. So the main thing is this: whatever you want to write, non-fiction, fiction, don't, when you're writing non-fiction, don't exaggerate.
Yeah, makes sense. So one tip is don't exaggerate.
Don't
Just
exaggerate,
tell it how it is.
because when you get into the flow, and non-fiction, especially when it comes to subject matters, it'll be like, okay, if you're from a corporate world and you're writing about say finance, or if you're writing about retail or supply chain or whatever, you would want to put in others' experiences as yours.
Mm,
Give credit to the other person from where you're lifting it in that book. Just because it is your book, don't. That is where the truth comes in,
Makes sense.
The truth factor is important.
Yes,
If you're
absolutely.
not
And
honest, then yeah,
no, Nisha, what you just said is true. I mean, what you're saying is when you say don't exaggerate, but then you add to that giving credit to other people. That's fantastic. Because that's isn't that what life is all about? Look, we
exactly.
all experience through relationships, through through our society. We continue to learn from each other. We learn and
True.
share. We continue to learn and share. So just like every experience, even in your life, there's going to be things you'll pick up from people, right?
Exactly.
Maybe
Exactly.
certain things then become your own as you start to build on them, right?
Yes.
But I love
Yeah.
how you said, don't exaggerate. Keep it real, and
Keep it
that
real. Yeah.
changes the way it's even received. Is that true? It
Exactly.
receives more.
Yeah. Yeah. You won't know. That is how, see, when you, some books, when you read, you can't complete it. Some books you go to later on. That is when your
Yeah, it's
consciousness
true.
awareness raises. That is when you connect with that book. That is all the energetic space of the author who is writing it.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that though, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Nisha, there's books I've bought. Okay, I'm serious. I have them on my shelf, right? I went to somehow something attracted me. I picked up the book. It's sitting there years later, and I haven't read it yet. And there's
It's
other
okay.
books that you pick up and you can't stop. You just are
Stop.
stuck. Yeah, you
Yes.
have to
Yes. That's,
finish it.
yeah.
You
It's
know,
also the
so
intention of the author. Everything matters. Words are
yes,
energy, pure. Words are just energy. Just because it's a thought process, thoughts are energy. It's going. We are all one consciousness. That's why we say this. And
absolutely.
books is a
I,
book is one of the medium that connects.
I love that.
Right?
So what I'm hearing you say now as we start. So here we are as we identify that every one of us, in our life has a story because our life is a story in
Definitely.
its own way.
Definitely.
How you
Definitely.
perceive your experiences can be turned into a book. Now, say someone already knows their topic, they've identified what they want to write about. Your first tip was, don't exaggerate, keep it real, which is very important. What else? What else can we do to inspire ourselves to write?
That's what you need, those 3 Ds. You
Okay.
need to be determined.
Okay.
Determination is nothing but that laser sharp focus. And that laser sharp focus will come when you know your why.
When you know your
Why do
why.
you want why do you want this book out? It could be as simple as leaving a legacy for your grandchildren. Fine. Or it could be to influence your industry, or it could be to propel your career, whatever. But that why should be so strong so that you're determined. And then,
Very powerful.
yeah, that should be there. The next is dedication. Dedication is that enthusiasm, that that love, so that
Yeah.
that passion to go back and write every single day, get yourself to the desk and write. Only if you love that topic, or only if you love what you're writing, and only if you're eager to share it with the world. That is a huge thing. There are some people who don't want to give it all off, but yet want to get a name. So
Hmm.
there is no total love in that.
Yeah.
It's just love for the self, right?
I
Like
love.
like
Yeah.
you say, hold
Absolutely.
the space. Yeah. So first we need to learn to hold the space for ourselves with love, so
Correct.
that we can open up. So
Nisha,
that is
it's
dedication.
huge. It's huge what you said. I mean, if you anything with purpose, anything with purpose is bigger than you, right?
Yes.
The minute you
Yes.
identify the purpose of the message and the book,
Why?
then
Yes.
that becomes the why becomes your grounding, right? Your anchor
Yes.
to
Yes.
ensure
Yes.
that it's not only about, okay, I want to write a book about myself. Oh no,
Enough.
but it's about
No.
the
No.
message or
Then it
why
becomes
we're
an ego
doing it.
trip. Yeah.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So that's why many people fail to write their books when it's written from that wrong space.
Exactly.
But once they've
Exactly.
identified the purpose, whatever that purpose is, maybe to change the industry, whatever, right?
Whatever. Yeah. It could be small to big. There's no small and big. Again, as you know, as we talk always, it's perception. But whatever is good for
Yeah,
you. Whatever is good for
beautiful.
you.
And this then makes you resilient enough and determined
Yeah.
enough for you to go out there
Determined.
and continue doing it.
Yeah. And once you're determined and dedicated, then naturally the discipline will come. Then it becomes a
Nice.
habit. Then it's like, like that addict. When you don't sit and write for an hour or whatever you've told yourself, you get those shivers. You want to do
So
it. Oh,
here,
something is
I have a
missing.
question for you. And this is now you're used to these kind of questions. I'll throw it out. Do you think the discipline becomes because once you start working on it, like you said, you start to enjoy it so much, but because you're also uncovering yourself. So in a sense, the aha moments come, and you start to get it's like when you work on yourself, you enjoy it so much, you start to do more of it, right? So do you
Yeah.
feel that that's part of this as well, as it's because you're building that habit, you're getting discipline, but you're also because you're benefiting from this process, the process of writing?
For me, it is that. For me, it is that now.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can see the skeletons falling, which I didn't even know existed. I
Yeah.
thought I've cleansed, I'm healed, I'm done, I am. But then, no, there will be something, and then I'll have to work on it. And then it's so nice. And during that journey, you will see when you connect for your research also, it'll be the similar people who will come to you.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's beautiful, a journey. It's beautiful. And when that book comes out, there will be people who resonate with that journey of yours who might be going through that same thing. And that is where it connects. That's what I said, consciousness levels, various
Connects.
levels.
Sure.
They will come,
Sure.
yeah.
So discipline's a great one. So, okay, moving to the second point. So now you've got determination, you're dedicated, you're
Dedication.
getting
Yeah.
back from this book, you're in the flow, you're starting to write. What's the next thing that inspires us as authors?
As what
As authors,
inspires you to
what's
write?
the next step? What's the next step? Yeah. So
Once you've written,
so
once you've
you
written,
right, because you have those 5 points for us, right? So what's the
yeah.
next one?
No, you don't. Once you start writing, be it fiction, non-fiction, literary fiction, whatever, don't read while you're writing.
Oh,
Don't
wow.
edit.
Okay.
So today you set yourself a target. That all comes under discipline, goal setting, and the number of targets, the target word count that you need to write per day at the end of the month, how much you need for the total book, how much you need, all that you set. And for example, every day you've got to write 600 words if that is your target. Today you sit, you write 600 words. Tomorrow, same time, you open your laptop or your book, however you go, write the next 600. Don't go and read the first 600. That is where you'll get stuck.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So what you're saying is create structure. So now
Yes.
you've determined the why. You've dedicated yourself to doing this. You've got the discipline, and now you create structure in your work. And
Structure. And
that's
to know the structure, you need to know the germ, the micro niche. That is where most people get confused or overwhelmed.
okay.
You say, oh, I want to write this on, say, for example, stock markets or finance. And you have this whole experience of yours, you have this whole knowledge about the market because you've been an expert and an authority in the subject. And you start writing in, and then you're so confused because you're overwhelmed with information that you already have.
Right.
So that is why you need to get to the micro niche, not even the niche, the micro niche, the germ. It's like peeling an onion, like
Right.
don't write about stock market. Or if suppose, for example, if you're writing about wellness, wellness is a genre. Under wellness, you have physical wellness, mental wellness, whatever. If suppose if I'm taking physical wellness, under physical wellness, what are you going to talk about? Losing weight, building muscles, increasing your height, whatever. How do you do it? Again, physical exercise, yoga, under yoga again. So come
Correct.
down, and use that germ so that you have absolute clarity. Okay, I'm talking about wellness. I'm using yoga to reduce my weight, and I'm telling my experience. Now, that is where most people don't start writing once you get to
Got
that.
you. Oh,
When
wow.
you get to that, people stop writing because they say, oh my God, who am I to talk about this? There are a zillion books written on that. Imposter
Okay.
syndrome sets in there. After you've got clarity,
Okay. So I
syndrome
gotta
gets
stop.
set
I
in.
gotta stop and just kind of understand what I just heard. So what you're saying is, at this point, the why, but doesn't the why get us there though? Doesn't the why already? Once you've identified why you're writing a book, won't you go that deep anyway?
Yes,
Or
you will. You will.
but you don't
And
start
this can,
writing from that depth, is what you're saying.
you don't write. Yeah, you don't start writing. When you start writing and when you start researching, you will see there are so many books already written on that. And that is when you start questioning and self doubting yourself. Who's going to read my book? Who am I to write? Do I have enough experience?
Right.
All those
So how do you counter that as a writer? How do you counter? So what if you start to face that? What should you do when you start to doubt?
Oh, well, I just close it and I take a break for some time. Sometimes the break can be for a few days
Okay.
or a few months also. Like it
Okay.
happened with my third book, it was for a few months. Then you come back. But then that's when you want to heal because imposter syndrome is internal work. It is your hidden fears.
I
You
love what
need
I'm
to get
hearing.
you
Nisha, I
need to
love what I'm
get that
hearing.
out.
So what you're saying is this is where people would beat themselves up because we've created discipline. We want to keep on writing,
All that
and
is there.
then
Yeah.
suddenly your
Let us.
structure is broken and you're
Yeah.
scared to take a break. But what you're saying is, listen, if take a break, go
Yeah.
back, try to
Yeah.
work on yourself, your
Yeah.
inner work, because that's going to show up in the book.
That is going to show up in the book, and that is only then can you be vulnerable, and only authors who are vulnerable are read.
Wow,
Right?
that's a big
That's
one.
what they
Yeah.
say. Good writers are selectively vulnerable. The more you get experience, great writers become shamelessly vulnerable. They'll say any of
Wow.
the dark secrets, and that connects. Oh my God, he's opening about his mental health. Right?
Yeah.
You connect there.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's next? So what else should we do? What else should we look out for?
Holding your space. That's it. Big thing. Big thing. Don't look for perfection. Perfection is an illusion.
I love that.
And yeah, perfection is an illusion. And once you structured the book, the other thing what people get stuck is with chaptering it. You have wonderful apps these days if you don't want to do it. If you want to get a guide, a mentor, that is different. But if you want to do it by yourself, also, you have these softwares and apps like Scrivener, like True Novelist. It helps you. You just put in your word count, and Scrivener is. I tried using it once. I'm not much of a gadget person. I'm still that old school. I need my paper and pen, but I
Right.
tried using Scrivener once, and it's so beautiful. It allows you to break your thing into chapters, and say suppose in chapter 6 you write something, and in chapter 18 you forget it, and you repeat that paragraph, or you repeat that same word combination. It will
Right.
immediately alert you. Chapter 6, please cross check.
Wow. So
It's very
technology
author
helps.
friendly. Author friendly. You have author friendly programs and softwares. Use that.
Nisha, I think you're right. I think as the world moves forward, there's going to be more tools. Like you said, people
Yeah,
can publish
yeah.
themselves faster than ever before.
You
But
don't even
to
have to
ins-
say. You don't even have to write. You don't even
true.
have to write. If you're a person who's better at speaking, speak, record it, and put it on apps like Otter.ai or
And it does
Transcribo.
it, it writes it for
It
you.
does a transcribe and then send it
So,
to an editor to edit it.
but Nisha, what I was actually going to say is that now there's all these tools out there that help people, get there, right? Faster compared to maybe the olden days. But still the author within us needs to be inspired, right? Because we
Yes.
believe that and today's conversation has been about what can we do to inspire ourselves. And I loved how you started off right off the bat by saying words are energy. So your intention and your energetic space is going to show in your book. And people are
Yes.
going to connect with
Definitely.
that.
With
So
that before your message.
that to me was a big one, because as we get ready to write a book, or if we never thought about it but now we think about it, we understand that really who we are internally is going to show through our words when we write, and people take that
Yes.
from
Yeah.
so that's really powerful. I also like
That's
point number 4 here. As you see these 5 points,
huh.
point number 4, I like how you said vulnerability. When you can share your story in its own truth,
Exactly.
you know
That's it.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful with the vulnerable, because that's what taught us, right? Some of the mistakes have taught us, Nisha.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
learned from
yeah.
it.
Yes, yes. There are so many out there going through the same thing. And you know what? Another thing, what I've learned is when we say or when we record in this word, write what mistakes we've gone through, we would be writing it from a space saying, oh, I've learned my lesson. Okay. I've overcome that. I've overcome that challenge and I have moved on. And therefore, I'm in a space where I can recall it and write it and give it out as a message to the world. While I'm doing that, I get other aha moments of what I had not really done. You know,
That's
when you're
clever.
really recording it for the outer world, for invisible readers, that is when you will get more learnings. Because until then, that learnings what you get is very personal,
Okay.
very personal. It's not, it's not on the wider scale. You don't put yourself on the wider scale when you're learning those lessons because it's a personal challenge that you went through. But when
That's
you start
true.
decoding it for the book, for an audience, you learn something more better.
Okay. Because you're putting yourself in their shoes as you read
Yeah,
it? You're
yeah. You will
experiencing
say
their
that,
journey as
yeah,
a reader.
yeah, yeah.
I like also your point number 3. Don't let your family
You-
read it before they're ready. Tell me about that. Why do you think that does
especially,
it? Does it
especially,
demotivate people?
no, especially if it's a memoir or an autobiography or a biography, and you've gathered this courage to come out clean or whatever, to say it so as to inspire. When it comes to family, they are emotionally connected to you.
Ah, okay.
So always give it to a beta reader. There are readers on hire you can take
Okay.
who are not attached, who don't know anything about your history, who will just who will not judge you, who will just read what you wrote and give you a feedback on that. Family will put emotions in there and then they start seeing it through an emotional lens. And then whatever confidence, if you are not that strong, if you've not reached that, if you're just climbing that window, you've not reached the rooftop, then you'll slide down.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I take away from this today and this conversation, I mean, Nisha, thank you so much for sharing because, it makes
Thank
you,
you.
like I told you, we had this vision that authors are usually these people that are typewriters, but to see that each one of us can tell a story and that through our life and our own experiences, there is always something to talk about and share. And,
Always, always.
and
Only add your
if you
special sauce to it. Yeah, that's it.
add your
That's all
special
that.
sauce to, I love it. And
That's your experience. Yeah.
if you really want to share your message, just have the courage to do the inner work. Because when you do the inner work, what you told me today, what I walk away with is when you do the inner work, it translates into the outer work in that book of
Yes.
yours. It'll
Yes.
show.
Yes. Huge. Huge. It took me years to learn that, but it's huge. Words are energy.
Words
Words
are
are
energy.
energy.
Nisha, we're going to end it at that. Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
Raji. Thank you
Thank you for
so much.
inspiring me. I
Thank you
can't
so
wait
much.
to get down one day and write that book with the message and knowing
Yes.
why I want to write it.
Yes.
But what you
Thank you.
taught me today is words are energy, and we have to make sure that we manage that by managing our own energy as well.
By
So
managing your own energy.
thank you so much,
As you
Nisha, for
say,
being
hold your
here.
space with love first before you hold it for
Absolutely.
others.
Hold your space with love. You said it.
For
Well,
yourself first.
absolutely. Nisha, thank you so much for being here. I
Thank
thank
you.
everyone who's
Thank
been
you.
here with us
Thank you.
and see
Thank
you
you
guys in
so
the
much.
next one. See you
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks,
Bye.
Rajiv. Thanks. Bye.